Bleeding purple and gold. From the heart of Los Angeles, this is the LakersNation.com podcast with your host, Trevor Lane.
Welcome to today's show. As always, we are powered by CLNS Media and LakersNation.com, your one-stop shop for all things Lakers. On today's show, we're going to be talking all about the NBA Draft. Brought in Jonathan Wasserman of Bleacher Report. You can follow him on Twitter at NBA Draft Was. Jonathan, thanks so much for hopping on with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So this draft coming up here, it's just a few days away. And the thing is, every year you hear, oh, this is a really strong draft class, or this is a weaker draft class, or this is a shallow class, or this is a deep class. What's your assessment overall of this draft class? Is it strong, a lot of superstar talent, weaker, more role players? Where do you see things falling here?
It's a very interesting draft, and I think the NBA guys are very excited about this year's field. And what's interesting is I think they have maybe two tiers atop the board, which make up probably the top 10 prospects. You want to get in this year's top 10 to land a potential star, although you never know, who's the next Donovan Mitchell. But teams feel really good about the top 10. The question is, there's not much difference between number 3 and number 9. Usually, there's a couple of elite guys and then another handful of guys. I mean, you could have a team that has the same guy at number 3 and then another team who has that guy at number 9. So it's really interesting atop the board. And then as you move down later into the first round, a lot of guys with role player potential, even into the second round. I think the same guy could be number 40 on one board, could be number 20 on another. So a really interesting draft, not just at the top, but as you move down into the first round and even into the second.
Is it pretty much a lock at this point that Ayton is going number 1?
I would never use the word lock. You never know what teams are thinking, and the Suns obviously aren't tipping their hand. I'll tell you, from every rival team, they all think it's going to be Ayton. It does make sense based on what they need. They have that hole at center. And Doncic, is the other guy who's in play there probably, but I don't know if Doncic is a full-time point guard. And I guess there are some questions about his fit with Devin Booker, and do they have a real point guard playmaker in that lineup if that's who they decide to go with. Ayton is the safer play. Physically he's probably ready to go right now, and offensive upside is through the roof. So everyone seems to think Ayton. That would be my guess right now, and I'd be probably surprised if somebody else's name was called.
In this year's draft, it seems a bit chaotic after that number 1 pick. That from most people have Ayton number 1, but then after that you've got a number 2. You've got a number of different options, and 2 through 5 in particular seems to really be in flux. How do you see it all shaking out in that top 5?
I have no idea. It's going to be wild. Listen, Sacramento, the second part of the draft starts at number 2 already. Last year we kind of knew Lonzo Ball was going number 2. I think this year it could be anyone from Bagley. I'm hearing Michael Porter is really in play. I know a couple of guys reported that, but somebody close to Porter's circle has told me that they believe he's locked into the top 4 and could go as high as number 2 to the Kings. Jaren Jackson Jr. in play there. Doncic, of course, is also still in play there. Mohamed Bamba has impressed a lot of people during the pre-draft process and improved his stock since the season. What order it shakes out is really anybody's guess at this point. And there's going to be some type of trades that shake things up. Atlanta at number 3 can go in so many different directions. I know they like Trae Young, but they've also explored potentially trading down for him. So there's just a lot of variables in play. Anything could happen starting at number 2.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, actually, is do you expect a lot of trade activity in this year's draft? We're hearing a lot of rumors about teams potentially trading down. Maybe that's a sign at how much depth there is in this draft. But what do you see happening?
Yeah, I think there are going to be a lot of teams trying to trade down because they think that they can get the same value at number 7 as they can at number 3. For example, the Hawks. They're definitely a team who I think is going to look to try and move down, get another asset, and get someone like Trae Young. The question is, if everyone's looking to trade down, nobody's going to be looking to trade up. So It's going to be tough. You got to find the right pairing, the right match between two teams. But there's definitely going to be a lot of activity on the phones during this draft and the days and hours leading up to it.
Now I saw this morning, Sam Vecini of The Athletic put out his draft big board and made mention that he sees this as a draft where you can grab somebody in the, say, 15th spot that may end up being just the same quality of player as somebody like me found later on at 40. Do you see that the same way? And if that's the case, what kind of value does the Lakers pick have at 25?
Yeah, no, I do see that as the same way. You could easily see a guy who gets picked number 30 and being, in the same exact tier as the guy who goes 15. The Lakers are going to have a handful of guys to choose from. And I always say, end of the first round, you're not really worrying about fit. You're worrying about finding a guy who can come in and help. Kyle Kuzma doesn't happen every year,
Right.
You just that late in the draft, you're hoping to pick a winner, and you don't know who's going to fall to you. You can't go in with a certain target. You got to go in and just see who falls to you. And I think somebody's going to fall to them. I don't know who it's going to be. Somebody's probably going to be available to the Lakers who they didn't expect to be there. And, there's a handful of names we can keep throwing out there, from Kevin Huerter, who has been tied to them. I like Chandler Hutchison, Aaron Holiday, Dante DiVincenzo. There's a lot of guys, Troy Brown. These are guys who can go in the late lottery. They could also be there in the 30s. So it's going to be really interesting to see who falls to them at 25.
If you were to pick like a dream scenario for the Lakers, but within the realm of reality, obviously Marvin Bagley is not going to be there at 25. But if you were to think of the guys who could possibly be there, who would be the one ideal player that you'd be really hoping to see if you were the Los Angeles Lakers?
I love Dante DiVincenzo. I think he's a great overall fit for the NBA. With the Lakers, with him and Josh Hart at that 2 position, I really like the way they complement each other. Hart, not the greatest athlete, but just a solid all-around player. DiVincenzo gives you a little more energy, a little more bounce, a little more flair. He would be a target for me at 25. I really don't think he's going to be there. Got the green room invite, which suggests he's probably going to go top 20 or so. But, he's somebody who really has risen on my board, and he obviously gained everyone's attention with that 31-point game in the national championship. But he was one of the best players at the NBA Combine, tested well athletically, just a humble kid, one of those kids who didn't expect to be here right now. So, it wasn't handed to him. He's pretty humble, really worked hard for where he is right now. He would be a target for me if I was the Lakers.
He does seem like a Lakers type of player. When you watch him play, you watch the pace that he plays the game with. I especially love his rebounding from the guard position. It's so impressive. I mean, his vertical tested, I believe it was either the highest or tied for highest at the NBA Draft Combine. Is that right?
Yeah, tied for highest with Josh Okogie of Georgia Tech. So kid could jump. And at the Combine, he had some unbelievable rebounds above traffic, and just one of those guys who's may never be a 20-point scorer, but he's going to get you 5 rebounds, 5 assists, he'll play pesky defense, he'll knock down the open shot, be a secondary playmaker out there. He's going to check a lot of boxes.
Now, the one knock on him has been his wingspan. He doesn't have a great wingspan. It's just kind of average. Do you see that as being something that could potentially hold him back and limit his flexibility on the defensive end?
You know what? He's probably only going to be guarding 1s and 2s, and I think against most 2 guards, he'll be okay. I think he compensates in other ways with his ability to put a lot of pressure on you. I'm one of those guys, and it's all in the eye of the beholder. Everyone has a different scouting strategy. If his arms are 2 inches shorter than the next guy's, does it make a big deal? In my opinion, probably not. You do like to see length, but not to the point where I'd kind of incorporate it into my scouting equation. He's probably better off guarding point guards. Backup point guards. I don't know if he's ever going to be a high-level starting caliber player. I always see him as a 6-man type, so I wouldn't put too much stock into his wingspan measurements. I like his quickness. I like his competitiveness, and I think he's going to be just fine on defense.
No, I'm with you 100% on DiVincenzo. I think he's my number 1 target as well. I've got a few guys that are up there. I do like Huerter a lot also, but we've also heard rumors that the Lakers may look to trade up into the middle of the first round to get their hands on Zaire Smith. Mm-hmm. In your mind, is that worth it if they believe DiVincenzo is going to be there at 25 or a player of his caliber is going to be there at 25? Is it worth moving up to get a guy like Smith, or are you better off just keeping your assets and waiting till later on?
I guess it depends on what the other asset they'd have to give up to move up. But Zaire Smith is one of the most interesting guys in this draft. still, I guess he just turned 19 years old this month.
Right.
One of the best athletes in the draft. I think he's a better shooter than he was able to show at Texas Tech. A very good passer. The question is, how much does he improve off the dribble? Can he create, in a couple years? Even if he can't, I still think he's going to be a guy at the very least who just makes athletic plays and guards a couple positions. He's intriguing. He's one of those guys who 3 years from now, you just don't know what he's going to look like. I'm pretty sure a guy like DiVincenzo, we know what he's going to look like in 3 years. He's just going to be that high energy guy. But yeah, if you're going to take a risk and trade up for a guy, in the mid first round, Smith is one of those high upside guys who just has so much room and such a large window to evolve and change his game. So I could totally see why they'd want to do it. It would be a risky play knowing that somebody like DiVincenzo or Troy Brown or one of these other guys could be there at 25. But I guess he's one of the guys you kind of roll the dice on.
We're going to take a quick break to talk about Simple Contacts. If you wear contact lenses and find yourself dreading that annual appointment to renew your prescription, then you're going to love Simple Contacts. It's a great new company that makes this annoying process very simple. Simple Contacts lets you renew your expired contact lens prescription and reorder your brand of lenses from your phone or computer in minutes. Simple Contacts brings the doctor's office to wherever you are whenever you need it. You can take the Simple Contacts vision test online in 5 minutes. A real doctor reviews it and renews your prescription. You save time, save money, and save yourself a headache. And if you have an unexpired prescription, just upload a photo of it or your doctor's info and order your lenses in minutes for a great price. They do all the hard work for you. This is vision care for the 21st century. Simple Contacts offers every brand of lenses and their prices are unbeatable. The prescription is just $20. They have some of the best prices on contacts and shipping is free. Best of all, my listeners get $30 off their first Simple Contacts order. To save $30 on your lenses, just go to simplecontacts.com/LakersNation. I want to mention that this isn't a replacement for your periodic full eye health exam. You still need those occasionally, but it is the most convenient way to renew a prescription and reorder your contacts if your vision has not changed. Again, check out Simple Contacts and get $30 off by going to simplecontacts.com/LakersNation. Again, that's simplecontacts.com/LakersNation. Give it a try and thank me later. So in your mind, he'd be more of a high risk, high reward type player to go after.
Yeah, again, you never know how much a guy's going to improve once he gets into the league, and fit plays a big role in that. From everything I've heard from him, another humble guy who not highly recruited, didn't expect to be here, does the little things on the court you like, and you kind of just have to hope that he improves skill-wise. But if it doesn't work out for him skill-wise, if he never blows up in terms of his ball skills, his shooting, I still don't think that his floor is too low. I still think, very least, he's a high-energy, defensive-minded role player.
He's a guy that you'd have to imagine is going to make some dunk contest appearances. When you see him out in the open floor, he's breathtaking. The way he can get up and finish, it's so impressive. So, yeah, he's definitely an interesting prospect and a guy that if he does wind up with the Lakers, you're going to see some highlights if he gets out and runs with Lonzo Ball, right?
Yeah, a big-time leaper off 2 feet. He's, typically guards aren't known for tip dunks, and he is a threat on the offensive glass at only 6'3", 6'4". So definitely a highlight reel waiting to happen. A very exciting player. So you really hope that his skills catch up to his bounce.
Now, another guy the Lakers have been linked to that's kind of a mystery man here, that's Mitchell Robinson. What's your take on him? It was strange how early the Lakers ties came out and rumors of this promise and everything. That was weeks ago. What's going on with that whole situation?
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything substantial. I remember when those rumors came out sometime around the Combine. I think he fueled some mystery by deciding to sit out the Combine after skipping the year. He's got to be up there in that conversation for high risk, high reward prospect. In workouts, he's probably awesome. He's 7'1", 7'3" length, an explosive athlete. He shows, at least on tape, that he can knock down open shots. But having played zero over the past year, you have no idea about his feel for the game, about whether he can execute those skills against a set defense. And he's older than most freshmen, actually. So, for me, he's not somebody who I would want to take a chance on when I think this draft is strong. To me, he's a guy who I take with the first pick of the second round. But Lakers need a big man. You could see why they would be intrigued by his long-term potential. But there's a lot of risk tied to him in terms of, does he pick up the game well? We don't know anything about whether he could defend. I know he put up big block numbers in AAU ball, but to me that's kind of meaningless. Teams have been skeptical about his interview process, about his background, and going to Western Kentucky, coming back, leaving again, not participating much at all during this pre-draft process. So he's really a high-risk, high-reward prospect.
Now, the Lakers have a pick in the second round at 47. Do you see value in that pick, or is there a drop-off before you get to that point?
I mean, at number 47, I don't care what draft you're talking about. It's hit or miss. It's hit or miss, and there are interesting guys there. I mean, you look at Raleigh Alkins from Arizona, who could be in that range, who has the NBA body and the ability to score from all three levels, but some obvious questions. Chimezi Metu from USC, who they should be familiar with, highly skilled, passes the eye test, but can he make an impact? His impact kind of fluctuated in college. Kevin Hervey, who I really like from Texas Arlington, is going to be a mid-second round type guy who had 2 ACL surgeries, but talent-wise, he's there, averaged 20 points a game this year, a proven shot maker. Svi Mykhailiuk, a knockdown shooter who could be a specialist, but can he do anything else, and can his jump shot carry him? There's just so many guys like that who, you just really don't know, and the success rate of the number 47 pick in the draft is really, really low. So there's definitely value tied to having a pick there. You're playing with house money, so it'll be interesting to see if they can capitalize and hit on somebody.
Right, yeah. I mean, the entire draft, there is that air of uncertainty. The lower the pick you have, probably the better you feel about that pick. But by the time you get to the middle of the second round, really, you're hoping for the best, hoping you can get a productive role player. I mean, finding a Draymond Green or a Manu Ginobili in the second round is so rare that you really can't go into the draft expecting to get anything like that. Yeah, no,
listen, if you come away with a rotation player at number 47, you did a hell of a job scouting. So the bar is set very low for your expectations when you're picking at number 47. If you can get somebody who can play on a second-year contract for the next 3 years in your rotation, I mean, that's a huge win, huge value there.
Now, the last thing I want to talk about before we get you out of here, Jonathan, is this changing of the guard here as far as big men in the NBA. We've seen this sort of revolution of the position. We're seeing guys like Embiid and Towns being able to step out and shoot the three, be able to be versatile, multifaceted players. And now we've got these new guys coming in. We've got Ayton, we've got Bagley, we've got Bamba, all these guys at the top of this year's draft. Is the big man position becoming en vogue in the NBA once again, or is this still going to be a guards league? What do you think as we're getting these young guys coming on board?
Well, I think bigs are looking at the bigs now. Bigs coming up in the ranks are looking at Embiid and Towns and saying, man, I got to be able to shoot threes if I want to be a star. And so the game's changing a little bit. However, I think if you find a dominant post player, if Shaquille O'Neal was in this draft, he'd still be a very dominant player in the NBA. Guards, yeah, it's nice to have amazing guards. But bigs who could stretch the floor and create spacing, that's definitely something NBA coaches really like. So I think if anything, it's just changing the mindset of these younger bigs in high school who are now changing their skill sets and realizing that I don't just have to be a post player, which I probably am most of the time in AAU as the biggest guy on the floor. Now I have to be a guy who can shoot and a guy who can attack closeouts and make a play off the dribble. And so, yeah, I think the big man is changing. But at the same time, I don't see are guards more important or bigs more important? They're equally important. You need talent at different positions, and depending on the player, that's really what matters. But if anything, I think it's just changing the way big men enter the league, and in terms of knowing what they have to be good at now, their skill set has to be expanding.
All right. Well, Jonathan, thank you very much for your take today. Really appreciate you spending the time here and joining us on the Lakers Nation podcast.
Yep. Thanks for having me, Trevor.
That was Jonathan Wasserman of Bleacher Report. You should follow him on Twitter at NBA Draft Was. That's going to wrap things up for today's show. My name is Trevor Lane. You can follow me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane. We're going to have 2 more shows this week. We're going to have a midweek one. I'm bringing in Jordan Schultz of Yahoo Sports to talk about the latest draft rumors plus trade rumors. We're talking Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, LeBron James, all the big names. And then NBA Draft Night is Thursday, and that night we'll record a post-draft podcast that you can listen to on Friday. So that's the schedule for the rest of this week. Once again, guys, don't forget to head over to LakersNation.com for all the latest breaking Lakers news. See you next time.